Eritrea's history is ancient, stretching back thousands of years. Its location along the Red Sea has always made it a critical hub for trade and cultural exchange, linking the African interior with the Arabian Peninsula and the Roman world. For centuries, much of what is now Eritrea and northern Ethiopia formed the heartland of one of the greatest civilizations of the ancient world, the Kingdom of Aksum. Aksum emerged around the 1st century AD and became one of the four great powers of its time, alongside Persia, Rome, and China. Its coastal ports, particularly Adulis on the Red Sea, facilitated vast international trade in gold, ivory, and spices. Aksum was also the first state in the region to adopt Christianity in the 4th century, a decision that profoundly shaped the cultural and religious identity of the highlands. The Aksumites developed their own unique alphabet, the Ge'ez script, which is still used today for the Tigrinya and Tigray languages. After the decline of Aksum around the 10th century, the region's connection to the outside world continued, with Arab powers introducing Islam to the coastal lowlands, creating the diverse religious tapestry that exists in Eritrea today. The next major turning point was the arrival of European powers. For centuries, the Eritrean coastline saw control shift between local entities, the Ottoman Empire, starting in the 16th century, and the Egyptians. However, the modern borders of the nation were defined by a different power, Italy. Starting in 1885, Italy began its push into the territory, establishing a presence at the Red Sea port of Massawa. In 1890, Italy formally consolidated its holdings and proclaimed the new colony of Eritrea, naming it after the classical Greek term for the Red Sea, Mare Erythraeum. The Italians ruled for half a century, heavily investing in infrastructure. They built the famous Massawa-Asmara Railway, modern port facilities, and established Asmara as a remarkable example of modernist and Art Deco architecture. During this period, many Eritreans were recruited into the Italian colonial army known as the Askari. Italian rule came to an end during World War II when the British defeated the Italian forces in 1941. Eritrea was then placed under British military administration. Following the war, the international community struggled to decide Eritrea's future. Ethiopia's Emperor Haile Selassie I strongly lobbied for the territory, citing historical and economic ties, particularly the need for a seaport. In 1950, the United Nations General Assembly passed Resolution 390 AV, which established a federation between Eritrea and Ethiopia. The federation began in 1952. Eritrea was meant to be an autonomous unit with its own constitution, parliament, and domestic powers, while defense and foreign affairs were handled by the imperial Ethiopian government. However, within a few years, Ethiopian imperial authorities systematically began to dismantle Eritrea's autonomy. They suppressed Eritrean media, banned the Eritrean flag and languages, and gradually dissolved its institutions. In 1962, Emperor Haile Selassie unilaterally dissolved the Eritrean parliament and formally annexed the territory, declaring it the 14th province of Ethiopia. This act of annexation triggered the Eritrean War of Independence. The armed struggle officially began on September 1, 1961, led initially by Hamid Idris Awate and the Eritrean Liberation Front, ELF. The annexation cemented the long and brutal conflict that was to follow. The War of Independence lasted for 30 years, and became one of the longest and most costly armed struggles in modern African history. Two primary nationalist movements emerged: the Eritrean Liberation Front, ELF, and the subsequent Eritrean People's Liberation Front, EPLF. Though the two groups fought an internal civil war, the EPLF eventually emerged as the dominant force. The conflict spanned the reign of Emperor Haile Selassie and the subsequent communist Derg regime in Ethiopia, which was heavily supported by the Soviet Union. The EPLF, led by Isaias Afwerki, was characterized by its self-reliance, high discipline, and the prominent role of women fighters. The Eritrean forces, through strategic victories like the Battle of Massawa and the final decisive battle for the capital, Asmara, finally defeated the Ethiopian army in May 1991. Following the victory, the newly established provisional government organized a UN-monitored referendum on independence. In April 1993, an overwhelming 99.8% of the population voted for independence. On May 24, 1993, Eritrea officially declared its independence, gaining international recognition and joining the United Nations. This date marks the end of the long struggle and the birth of the nation. Since independence, Eritrea has faced significant challenges, including a severe border war with Ethiopia, 1998 to 2000, over the town of Badme and ongoing political isolation. However, the nation's independence, forged through one of the most tenacious liberation movements in history, remains a powerful symbol of self-determination.